Hi, this is Steve Allen with Connect Home Loans. Now, one of the questions that I get asked a lot lately has to do with pest reports and what their impact is to a purchase transaction, especially from the lending side. So let's talk about that for just a second. Several types of loan programs require pest reports and some do not. In this case, conventional loans and FHA play pretty much by the same rules. They're kind of on a don't ask, don't tell type of basis. So if in working with your buyer, it becomes something desirable not to have a pest report involved in the situation, then by simply not mentioning it in the sales contract, you can quite possibly avoid it. Now, by not mentioning it, it means you can't have any reference to it in any way, shape, or form. Not having had it run before or that the seller is going to provide one, nothing at all can be stated about it. Sort of a don't ask, don't tell type of situation. Now, if you do have a situation where it does show up and somebody like me, a lender, says, well, we're going to have that pest report, then what you can do is you can amend it out. But you have to be careful, because when you amend it out of the sales contract, you have to make it clear that a pest report has not been run and that neither side wants to have one and everybody's comfortable with it. There is one loan program, however, where you have to have a pest report no matter what, and that's the VA loans. So if you get into a situation where your buyer is using the VA loan to go through the transaction with, just remember, you're going to have a pest report, and not only are the Section 1 items going to have to be repaired, but Section 2 as well. So you want to keep that one in mind. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happens when an appraiser or a pest control inspection is done on the property. Now, when an appraiser goes out and actually does an inspection and sees obvious termite damage, then that's going to appear in their report, and that's going to put a pest report on the table whether anybody actually wants it or not. But if you have a property where, say, there's damage in an eave, there's an eave section that has shelled and showing obvious damage, and there's pellets and so on, you can actually cut that portion out of the eave if you want and just leave it out of there. That doesn't really change anything about the appraisal, and the appraiser won't comment on any kind of termite damage. And the cosmetic aspect of the eave being cut really isn't going to affect the transaction at all. Now, if you have a situation where either the pest inspector or the appraiser notices water spots appearing in the ceiling, water stains in the plaster or sheetrock, well, that might trigger a situation where the underwriter might ask for a 2-year roof cert. So when you're working with something like that, and you're going through the property, take a look at it and see what might trigger a comment in a pest report or in an appraisal. And let's see, what else do we got here? Oh, a funny story I was going to mention, having to deal with swallows, actually. In certain cases, if you have swallows that are roosting at the property, then that can be a real problem. I had a transaction about a year or so ago where swallows started setting up nests, and the house actually needed to be fumigated for termites. Well, of course, everything stopped because you couldn't go forward, and it's illegal to knock down the nests. And I think there's some kind of outrageous amount of money in the way of a fine if you happen to go ahead and knock down one of the swallows' nests. So that's about it. If you have any questions, give me a holler. This is Steve Allen with Connect Home Loans. And remember to read your pest report carefully. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.